This is my baby. This is the only good thing I have here.
Going above and beyond, who this woman is thanking this morning for saving her close companion after a devastating fire took everything else she owns.
And tracking traffic, the new tactic one city councilor is hoping will ease a problem on one of Albuquerque's busiest roadways.
Also happening today, lawyers for a former deputy accused of murder will argue that charge should be dropped. What they're saying about the evidence coming up. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Adam Atchison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Gutierrez. Happy Tuesday to you. It is May 17th. We'll get to those stories in just a bit. But first, we are talking wind and rain.
Yeah, prepare for some changes. Kristen Curry has a look at what's ahead. I guess we've seen the wind here in the recent days, but the rain?
I know. Well, you know how I was saying the winds were going to pick up within the hour here because they really weren't that bad overnight?
There it is.
Did your girl deliver? Did your girl deliver?
Spot on, although we'd rather not have the wind.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that really kind of stinks is those winds are going to hurt our rain chances later on this afternoon. But as far as the overall setup goes, at least we're looking at some decent rain chances within state lines today and even factoring in some snow. So here's what I'm talking about. Cold front now pushing through the metro. Sustained speeds over 20 miles per hour here in Albuquerque. Stronger than that out in Clovis and Roswell. And I do expect these winds to stay strong throughout the entire day today. So that's something we're going to have to get used to. Temperatures are in the mid 60s at the warmest today. That is a good 15 degrees cooler than what we had yesterday afternoon, and expect a lot more cloud cover as we finish up the day. So spotty to scattered storms in today's forecast. Again, there's a couple of things we're going to have to watch for, especially the winds here in the metro. That will determine how much rain we see. But the cooler temps will be statewide and the winds are here to stay. So a little bit of a rocky day today when it comes to the forecast. I'll break down when, where, and how much rain and snow I expect to fall within state lines today coming up in about 15 minutes.
Meantime, in just hours now, attorneys for a former Santa Fe deputy accused of killing another deputy are expected in court to argue that his first-degree murder charge should be dropped. Tai Chan's attorneys claim while the state has collected lots of evidence, none of it legally supports a conviction. Police say after a night of drinking, Chan shot and killed Deputy Jeremy Martin at a Las Cruces hotel. The motion is expected to be discussed in court during a hearing later this morning. We will have a crew there. If you would like to read the motion for yourself in the meantime, just go to the KRQE News app.
On to this developing story this morning. A judge is said to consider a request to release evidence to the family of a young woman killed by an off-duty APD sergeant during a crash. The family of Ashley and Lindsay Browder want the department to hand over the work computer and the hard drive of APD's former records custodian, Ronaldo Chavez. Attorneys say Chavez's computer has data from the work-issued cell phone Adam Casals was using the night of that crash. Casals sped through a red light on Paseo del Norte back in 2013, hitting the two sisters. Ashley was killed that night. APD destroyed his cell phone. The family wants to know if he was texting or talking on the phone at the time of the crash.
And developing now, the U.S. Marshal's Office says it's investigating a, quote, critical incident in northwest Albuquerque. Deputy marshals say last night they were after a man who had already been convicted of being a felon with a gun near Indian School in Rio Grande. They say when they caught up with that man, he did have a gun on him and an incident did happen, but they did not say exactly what that was. Right now, the man is in custody. They are not releasing his name or age.
New this morning, the city now has more power to seize dangerous dogs after counselors approved changes to Angel's Law. Last night, counselors approved the ordinance. The law now requires city animal welfare officers to immediately take any dog that kills or seriously hurts a person or pet. Owners could get their dogs back if they can prove they were not at fault. The mayor's administration has been pushing the ordinance as a way to better protect the public. As
New Mexicans prepare to cast their votes this year, a newly released audit shows the Secretary of State's office never budgets enough money to pay for elections. State Auditor Tim Keller found that the Secretary of State's office has used $25 million in emergency loans and grants over the past decade to cover election costs. He says that costs taxpayers more in the long run. But Secretary of State Brad Winter blames the legislature for only giving them a portion of the money that they need.
We asked for $11 million and we only got $9 million. And we know exactly what our election's going to cost us. And we're short over $1 million.
Winter says he's working with the Department of Finance to hopefully fix that problem.
This morning, UNM campus police are still on the lookout for a man who may have had a gun on campus, causing the school to lock down. UNM ordered a shelter-in-place mandate after reports of that man around 6 o'clock last night. UNM police say they never found him, and it was lifted about an hour later. The man reportedly got off a bus at Yale and Central and walked onto campus with a gun. According to a university alert, he is a Hispanic man around 6 foot tall, wearing blue and white polo shirt, dark pants, and carrying a blue backpack.
6:05 developing now. One city councilor is taking a new tactic to slow down speeding drivers on lead and coal. City Councilor Isaac Benton is sponsoring a bill to add traffic signals on those streets, lead and coal, at Walter. That's the halfway point between Broadway and I-25. He says the signals would be timed with the others along that same route.
Where if you just go a steady 30 or so miles an hour, you go on right on through in a safe manner.
That bill is in committee, not in front of the full council yet, where we will find out if the project gets a green light. Councilor Benton says the signals are expensive and it's unclear where the money to pay for them would come from. The city's been trying to slow drivers down in that area for a decade now, reducing the number of lanes, restriping, and putting in wider sidewalks.
On to news happening now. Frightening new trend is taking hold among some teens across the country. Parents, listen to this. Police in Massachusetts and Connecticut are reporting their kids are eating certain flower seeds to get high. Police say kids are ingesting sleepy grass, Hawaiian baby wood rose, and blue morning glory seeds because they reduce a LSD-like effect. The seeds are said to cause hallucinations. Police are now asking stores to stop carrying them.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is expected to call a meeting with prominent conservatives to address allegations of political bias on the social media platform. Zuckerberg's expected to meet 12 conservative thought leaders tomorrow. Fox News' Glenn Beck is among those invitees. Facebook came under fire last week after several former employees claimed that they were told to suppress politically conservative stories from the trending news section and inject other stories. A U.S. Senate committee has opened an inquiry into the process for choosing trending content.
On to a live look at Washington, D.C. this morning as the race to the White House continues with primaries being held today. Voters in Kentucky and Oregon will head to the polls starting this morning, all to decide who should be their party's presidential nominee. Democrat Bernie Sanders is looking to beat rival Hillary Clinton in both states, but he still trails far behind her in the overall delegate count. Donald Trump heads into yet another uncontested primary in Oregon, but the presumptive GOP nominee is facing some tough questions about his character today.
And in New Mexico, Sanders' campaign office is scheduled to be open this morning. It's located at Central near Buena Vista. Volunteers were working for Sanders' campaign, and they say that they believe the Vermont senator will do well in our state, despite trailing Hillary Clinton in pledged delegates.
I believe it'll be very heavily in favor of Bernie. That's my assessment based on talking to people around the state.
Clinton also has a campaign office in Albuquerque. Republican candidate Donald Trump doesn't. New Mexico's primary election is scheduled for June 7th.
On to a story a lot of people are talking about. More than a dozen people are without homes in Houston this morning after a devastating apartment fire. But today, firefighters are being praised for going above and beyond to help residents. Firefighters say they went to work quickly on the 2-alarm fire when it sparked yesterday. When they heard a dog was trapped inside one of the units, they paused to find the pup. They did. But then the owner told them she also had a cat. That's when they went searching and found her too. A bittersweet reunion for the woman who lost everything in that fire, but still has her animals this morning, all thanks to the hard work of those brave firefighters. And that's true hero right there.
It's a good thing that the animals, people are all safe. Belongings can probably be replaced.
I've already almost accepted it in my head.
Surviving and thriving, how this man was able to make it to shore after a shark attack that nearly cost him a limb.
Also, budget breakdown, how much city councilors have approved when it comes to pay raises for city workers.
Plus, creating crack, why one Albuquerque police veteran says a viral post is blowing a commonly used program out of proportion. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Crystal Gutierrez.
I'm Adam Atchison. We're starting a Tuesday together, May 17th. Day's top stories coming up in a moment. We're going to talk about the weather first, though, the changes on the way.
The wind's already picking up, right, Kristen?
Yes, that's right. And it'll come with the winds first. The rain, snow, and thunderstorms will follow later this afternoon. So let's break down what we have to face this morning. 54 degrees is where we're at now. Those East Canyon winds are already hitting us at about 21 miles per hour. And I do expect those sustained speeds to stay between about 20 to 30 throughout the entire day. Eastern Plains, you're getting knocked around with some of those winds as well, with speeds up to about 25 in Roswell, 21 up in Tucumcari and Clayton. Has yet to reach the western half of the state, though, but it's coming. 3-day forecast shows spotty to scattered showers today and again tomorrow. Temperatures, though, much cooler than normal for this time of year, as we're stuck in the 60s for the next couple of days. So I'll break down today's rain chances and extend out that 7-day forecast coming up here in about 10 minutes.
Thanks so much, Kristen. We start with the headline catching a lot of attention this morning, claiming APD officers are making drugs.
But a veteran officer says that's not what's happening at all. Veteran APD narcotics detective Brian Sally explained that officers are not making drugs, although police do have a district court's permission to make crack cocaine out of powdered cocaine to sell. Instead, police say they use drugs from closed cases that are set to be destroyed. Undercover detectives sell those drugs to make arrests and clean up crime associated with street drugs. It's all part of APD's reversal operation.
We've seen lately more people back out on the streets and more visible drug dealers, and that creates a potential for a lot of problems.
APD says it's never had to make crack for these operations because unfortunately it's often confiscated. You can read more about this operation on the KRQE News app and on our website, krqe.com.
The city of Albuquerque is preparing to move forward this morning on a new budget just approved by city councilors. Overall, it calls for spending about $526 million of basic operations for fiscal year 2017. It includes a 2% pay raise for city employees across the board. That includes retention programs for city security, bus drivers, 911 dispatchers, and APD officers. The budget also sets aside enough money to launch about $18 million in capital projects, all proposed by the mayor. In just days, kids in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho will be out of school, many looking for a summer job or for their first job as a career.
But before you start applying, experts say what's out there in the digital world could potentially harm you. News 13's Sarah Yingling tells us how to protect your family online. Sarah?
That's right, Adam. Parents, listen up closely. Those statuses you share on Facebook, those online surveys, applications, or registries can put you at risk. It all comes down to protecting your identity. Experts say sometimes we don't think about what we share on the internet or what's shared about us, especially on social media sites. Experts suggest limiting what you divulge on social media. If you share too much about your life, someone could use it to answer security questions. They also say if you don't know someone that well, think twice about being their friend on social media sites.
The best place to prevent that from getting out is simply not to give it out in the first place. When organizations ask for information, be very stingy with what you give. Be very careful what you put on social media.
A few more tips. Don't just automatically share your social security number. Question why it's required. And keep your internet secure. Look for that little lock icon on the web browser. Finally, use strong passwords. Experts suggest thinking of a phrase and taking the first letter of each word and making that your password. Back to you.
Interesting ideas. Thanks, Sarah. And curious about what's out there about you online? Do a quick search on the internet, and if information about you is incorrect, the experts say you can contact the organization or sometimes simply make those corrections yourself.
On to news happening today. One of the most anticipated interviews with presumed GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump airs tonight. All eyes will be on Megyn Kelly as the Fox News host interviews Trump in a primetime Fox broadcasting special Megyn Kelly presents. It is the first time the two will go head-to-head since clashing at the first Republican debate. You might remember that was back in August. You can watch that on our sister station 2 Casa Fox at 7 o'clock tonight. Also happening today, the case of an APD officer who was exposed by News 13 on special assignment set to go before the Civilian Police Oversight Agency. Officer Frank Tillman is accused of harassing a stripper after arresting her during a domestic violence call. Now, she claims he gave her his personal number and claimed he could help get her out of trouble. Since then, the two exchanged hundreds of text messages. Tillman was also suspended a few years ago for texting and flirting with a pregnant 17-year-old girl that he had pulled over.
Developing now as many people shift their focus to the summer season, people living in one part of New Mexico are facing more pool problems. We've told you Roswell's only public pool, Cahoon Pool, is closing. The city councilors determined it was costing them too much because it's deteriorating. An alternative for residents is the pool at Nimmy, but now the school has posted on its doors signs saying there will be intermittent closures because they don't have enough lifeguards. There has been talk about building a new pool in Roswell, but that's still in the very early stages.
This morning, a California man says he's lucky to have all of his limbs after a brush in the water with a shark. Ryan Borman says he was on a surf trip in Bali when he decided to go for an early morning run in the water. That's when he says a shark about 6, maybe even 7 feet long, bumped him and dragged him under. Ryan managed to get to shore.
I remember standing up, just like grabbing my arm and squeezing it, got to the sand and just passed out, and I just blacked out.
A friend luckily was there and able to bandage him up. He's now had a total of 3 surgeries to save his arm. Take a look at that. It will take a few weeks, though, for his arm to heal completely, but as you can see, he's in great spirits today.
Well, it's good he wasn't alone out there.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine how terrifying that would be?
No kidding.